Now, one of the interesting events that also happened on this journey is that the Prophet refused to accept the gift of a mushrik, of a pagan. It has been narrated that when the Prophet was on this journey, he was continuing towards Mecca. He met a group of people from the tribe of Banu Nahd or Nahd. فَدَعَاهُمْ إِلَى الْإِسْلَامِ. The Prophet invited them, come to Islam. They refused. Then they offered him milk as a gift. So they continued to be idol worshippers. They refused to become Muslims, but they gifted him what? Some milk. The Prophet excused himself. He said, I cannot accept a gift from a pagan. So the Muslims, what did they do? They bought the milk from them. So they paid them for it. They took the milk. They didn't return it, but like, we'll pay you for it. We'll make a transaction. Our Prophet does not accept gifts from mushriks. A few observations here. Number one, is that impolite? You are given a gift and you reject it. Is that not polite? Like impolite? Some people have accused the Prophet of being impolite with the pagans. But why did the Prophet reject their hadiyah, their gift? They rejected the oneness of Allah and Tawheed, which is the basis of the universe, the foundation of all faiths. They rejected his call. He's a messenger from God. They rejected him. When you reject him and falsify him, see, because when you reject the Prophet, you're telling him you're a liar. God didn't send you. Because if God sent you, I have to listen to you. So when you tell someone you're a liar, God didn't send you, there is no one God, why are you obligated to accept their gift? They're being impolite, not him. If someone comes, right, and let's say you became a medical doctor, you graduated, and you have an MD, an official MD. Somebody comes in your office with a tray of buklawa, and then he tells you, you are not a doctor. You never graduated. You're a liar. And then he gives you the buklawa. Are you going to take it? Are you obligated to take it? If you said, no, I excuse myself, I'm not going to take it. Is that impolite? Of course not. The person came accusing you of lying, rejecting your credentials. The Prophet has the greatest credentials in the history of humankind. He's the messenger of Allah. They rejected that. Why is he obligated to accept their gift? So those who say it's impolite, they're wrong. So you have to understand this point. Secondly, the Prophet, when he rejected their hadiyah, their gift, he did not want any mushrik to have a favor on him. You are a mushrik. You put God, my Lord, with idols. I don't want you to have any favors on me. Let me give you an example. Let's say someone, God forbid, killed your father or mother. You don't want to accept gifts from that person. You don't want the person who killed your father, who killed your mother, to have a favor on you. You don't want them to have a favor on you. Is that impolite? Is that irrational? No. The person committed a crime. He killed your mother unjustly. It wasn't justified. It's not like it was an accident. No, deliberately killed your mother. I'm not obligated to accept his gift. I don't want him to have a favor on me. Or someone, would you accept a gift from this person? I know you'll find this example funny, but that's the reality. So who's the most important person in your life? The dearest person to you in your life? Who would it be? A lot of people say your parents. Okay. Now imagine there's a person in the community. Every day he comes and he puts your parents at par with a fly. And he says, your parents are flies. Your parents' level is at the level of a fly. They're at the level of an insect. Your parents are insects. And he compares them to insects. And he puts them at the level of insects. And he treats them like insects. Every single day he does that. Would you accept a gift from this person? I guarantee you would not. If you have honor and dignity, you would not. These pagans, they put Allah, the King of the universe, with stones and wood. That's the biggest insult to the position of Allah. You put the grand creator of this universe with a piece of stone that you crafted with your hand, with a piece of wood that burns and becomes ash. That's the biggest insult to the position of Allah. So that's why the Prophet, those pagans who heard his message, he explained it to them very clearly. They had no excuse, and they would not join the religion of Islam. They would not accept Tawheed. The Prophet would not accept their gift. No doubt about that. He could not accept their gift. So this is not impolite by all means. In fact, this is rational. If the Prophet would have accepted their gifts, that would have been a source of objection to his personality and to his biography. So that's the first observation here. Do you agree with this, or you have another way of looking at it? Yes.
I just wanted to ask, how should we deal with family members who, disrespect God and, curse God and stuff like that?
There are two types of family members who disrespect God, or those who would curse God. One of them are those who don't know any better. They're extremely ignorant. They grew up in ignorant environments. They've never had the opportunity to see the truth. These people, if you have an opportunity to show them the truth, you can still, keep some ties with them and accept their gifts. That's fine. Because remember, people take time to be guided. But if these people are not ignorant, they do know who God is or what the status of God is. Out of arrogance or stubbornness, they insult God. These people you have to dissociate from, yes. You have to keep your distance from them.
Even if their family, is it allowed to cut ties?
Yes. Even if their family, if they are insulting God, and they're doing it repeatedly, there's no indication they're stopping. And if you brought it up with them and you tell them, look, I'm not asking you to believe in whatever I believe, but God is the creator. Don't insult God. That's not welcome. If you've made it clear to them that this is not okay, like when I'm around, do not insult God. I will not tolerate that. That's very offensive. If they keep doing it, yes, at that point you would cut them off, even if they're your family. But if you have hope, you know what, they're ignorance, I have a chance in guiding them, they don't know any better, then at that point you can continue your ties until you reach a point where you know they're being stubborn and arrogant. So that's how you make the decision.
What if
Yes.
they're not they don't curse God or anything, but
they're not religious.
To do with God.
No,
Even if it's from Allah.
yeah, those people, don't cut them off. If they're your family, have good ties with them. The example she gave is they're cursing God. Like they're offending the status of God. That's different. Because when someone does that, I have to step in. I have to take a stance to support the truth. But if you're dealing with people who are not religious, right? They're just not into religion. No, don't cut them off. Your family, don't cut them off. Unless they're negatively influencing you, then you have to keep some distance. So this is the first point. The second point, now that we've established that the Prophet does not accept a gift from who? From any mushrik. Today, the majority of Ahlus Sunnah, they claim, as we have examined before, and we've covered this the first year in depth, they have claimed that Abu Talib, the uncle of the Prophet and the father of Imam Ali, died as a mushrik. That's their claim. However, one response that I would like to mention here is that the Prophet was very close to Abu Talib and he accepted all the favors of Abu Talib. In fact, Abu Talib raised the Prophet. He grew up in the house of Abu Talib. Abu Talib would spend on the Prophet. He would gift the Prophet. He treated him like one of his sons. This is proof that Abu Talib must have been a believer. Because if Abu Talib was a mushrik, the Prophet had made it very clear, I don't accept any favors from a mushrik. So if Abu Talib was a mushrik, why would the Prophet accept favors from him? That contradicts his personality. That contradicts his seerah. The Prophet would not accept a simple gift from a mushrik. Milk, glass of milk, he wouldn't accept it. He would accept years, over 10 years of Abu Talib after Islam, over 10 years of Abu Talib spending on him, caring for him, supporting him, He would accept that? Why would he accept the favors of a mushrik when he has demonstrated that he doesn't? This is solid proof, amongst the other proofs that we've mentioned before. Abu Talib must have been a believer in God. If he was a pagan, it's impossible for the Prophet to accept his favors. Yes?
You could also say, if they say, oh, well, Rasulullah was a kid, what could he do? Where else would he
No, I'm talking about Bi'tha, year 40.
No, but Abu Talib was raising him from even before, right?
Even before.
Right. So
But the point is, after he received Islam, Abu Talib stayed about 10 years into Islam. Those 10 years, the Prophet accepted the support of Abu Talib, and he accepted the favors of Abu Talib on him. If Abu Talib is a mushrik, why would he accept it? That's the argument. We're not talking about the childhood, because childhood they could say, okay, this was before Islam. The Prophet didn't have an obligation to seek distance from mushriks before Islam. He had the obligation after the age of 40. So our counter argument is, for 10 years Abu Talib was alive, and he constantly supported the Prophet. He constantly defended the Prophet. He constantly gave to the Prophet, and the Prophet accepted all the favors of Abu Talib. He never told him, you're a mushrik, I can't accept your favors. He never said that. Why?
The
Yes.
counter-argument for the childhood one, could we use, like for example, Nabi Musa, when Allah says, وَحَرَّمْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ الْمَرَاضِعَ?
Okay, so Nabi Musa alayhi salam, even though God's plan was to take him to the palace of the Pharaoh, but Allah did not want him to breastfeed from any woman who was not a believer. So Allah somehow sent back his mother. So how do you want to apply that to the Prophet?
Even the Prophet, Musa alayhi salam, is not taking from mushrik women, then Rasulullah, even when he's a kid, if Abu Talib is a mushrik, he took from Abu Talib.
But they could say that Prophet Musa grew up in the palace of Fir'aun, and Fir'aun was a mushrik.
Yeah, but Fir'aun wasn't breastfeeding him.
He wasn't breastfeeding him, but he grew up in his palace.
Even Asiya was a...
So who was breastfeeding the Prophet? The Prophet's mother breastfed him for a while, then Halima Sa'diyah breastfed him. And then later, he grew up in the house of Abu Talib.
They were believers, right?
We believe Halima Sa'diyah was a believer. Other Sunnis may dispute that, but we believe she was a believer. It's impossible. That's a good point to prove Halima was a believer. The one that you mentioned about Prophet Musa. Abu Talib didn't breastfeed the Prophet. But they could say the provisions of Fir'aun, because Musa grew up in the palace of the Pharaoh. So, I mean, after being breastfed, what did he eat? Or where did he sleep? They could make the argument that, okay, he grew up in the house of a mushrik. So they could also say that the Prophet grew up in the house of a non-believer. That's why I want to focus after age 40. 40 and after, from the age of 40 to 50, when the Prophet was receiving revelation, Abu Talib was there. He supported him, he took care of him, he had favors on him. Yet the Prophet never said, you're a mushrik, I can't accept your favor. That's clear proof that he must have been a believer, because the Prophet would not accept the favors of a mushrik for 10 years.
When he died, he called this year
The year of sorrow, when he and Khadija died. Yes, brother.
Quick question. So the rule of rejecting gifts doesn't apply to those who, like the Sahaba, because they, even though inwardly they were against the Prophet.
Yeah, this does not apply to those who were Muslim on the outside, but they were hypocrites. So if a hypocrite would bring something to the Prophet, he could accept it, because the person is saying the Shahada. You know, he is saying, I accept you, you're Rasulullah, even though the Prophet knows the person is a hypocrite. But at least the person is pretending to be a Muslim. It's okay to accept their gift. I mean, you're still not obligated to, but it's okay. But the one who openly commits shirk, who openly denounces the Prophet, who openly says, you're not a prophet, you're a liar, how can you accept their gift? That's different than someone who from the outside is, sweet talking you, and then, from the inside they have other motives. That would be a different scenario. Yeah, so we don't have a hadith that says the Prophet never took a gift from a munafiq. I have not seen such a hadith. It's okay to take that. Okay. That was the second point. The third point, and the last point. Sahih Bukhari narrates, and other sources also indicate, that on the night of the Hijrah, when the Prophet was migrating from Mecca to Medina, he went into that cave for 3 days. On the night of the Hijrah, Abu Bakr bought 2 camels. This is what Bukhari says. He bought 2 camels. And he brought one of them to the Prophet. And he said, "O Prophet, take one of these 2. I'm gifting you one of my 2 camels so we can go on the journey." The Prophet replied, "Bithaman. I'll only accept if I pay you for it." That's answering your question, brother. The Prophet rejected, according to Bukhari, to accept the gift of Abu Bakr, whom Ahl Sunnah say was the greatest of Muslims of all time after the Prophet. Why would you reject the gift of your best companion, the gift of the best Muslim, when you're in desperately need of it? There's an attempt to assassinate you. You need to flee, and you don't have anything with you. So someone, your best companion, supposedly your best companion, comes. He's like, "This is a gift, Ya Rasulullah. I'll only take it if I pay for it." He did exactly what he'd do with the pagans. When they offered him that milk, he said, we'll buy it from you. I'm not going to accept it as a gift. So my question to other Muslims from other schools of thought, in such a critical moment, why would the Prophet not accept the gift of his best companion? I don't know. I don't think I have not seen that they've discussed this point. I haven't seen someone asking them and replying to it. It would be interesting to see what their response is. But if you ever have a dialogue with them, do ask them this question. How come the Prophet didn't accept his gift? Bukhari says, this is Bukhari, bithaman, only if I pay for it. Why didn't he accept his gift? When it's mustahab, shar'an, in Islamic law, it's mustahab to accept the gift of your fellow mu'min. It's mustahab. Why didn't the Prophet accept his gift? Yes.
When we, when the Shabab go to restaurants and we're all offering to pay for each other, and we say, no, it's a gift, would it then be makruh for the other party to...
See, today in our culture, when a group of guys, you go to a restaurant, right? It's not an official gift. You're going out there and then someone offers to pay. So you're like, no, it's okay, I'll pay for it. And you're showing your generosity. That's different. It's okay for you at that point to say, no, let me take care of it. Give me the thawab of paying for it. That's fine.
Does it become makruh on the other person if I say, no, this is a gift?
It doesn't become makruh unless you insist and you're going to get hurt, and at that point they should give in. But if you say, let me pay for it, the other person also out of generosity should say, no, let me pay for it. Because it's mustahab to spend on believers. That is not technically a gift, that has been offered to you. It's then and there on the spot someone offering to pay for the bill. So I wouldn't say it's makruh. This is different than someone bringing you a gift. Someone coming to your door or wherever you're residing, this is a gift. Shar'an, according to Islamic law, it's mustahab to accept their gift. It's discouraged to reject the gift of people. Unless there is an issue like a pagan giving it to you, right? Or there's another problem. So the Prophet here, Abu Bakr, he brings him, according to Bukhari, he brings a camel. He says, Ya Rasulullah, this is for you, a gift. And Bukhari claims, Abu Bakr told him, may the life of my parents be sacrificed for you, Ya Rabbi. Bi-abi anta wa ummi. Take my gift. Now, if your best companion is speaking to you that way, and your Islamic law states, accept the gift from believers, why did Rasulullah not accept it as a gift? He says, no, I'll buy it from you. Why? Let them answer. I don't know.
But this story of the milk was given from Ben Nahad. Is written in Sunni's book.
Yeah, this is in Sunni works of history that they offered him the milk. The Prophet said, no, I don't accept any gift from a mushrik. So what did the Muslims do? Because they wanted the milk, right? What did the Muslims do? They went and they bought it from them. The Prophet approved that. He's like, yeah, that's okay. The Prophet did the same with Abu Bakr on the night of Hijrah. He offered him the gift. He refused. He says, I'll buy it from you. So our question to them is, why did he not accept his gift? Allahu A'lam.